You're tuned into the Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Zeno Pucks. Here are your hosts, Andy and Brian Matusi.
Welcome back to the Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast, presented as always by Zeno Pucks. Brian and Andy here, but all I got to say is, how you feeling?
Like $1 million, and like my team didn't choke away their playoff series.
You know, last year after the Oilers won Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final, you sent me a very vulgar text message.
Yeah.
And I was truly, I don't want to say truly afraid, but there was a small part of me that was like, man, if the Panthers let this one get away after coming back from down 2-0, that'll be crushing for him. And I'm just like, God, I hope they can find a way out of this. And they did, man. They did. Why don't you give us your reaction to the fallout in the game and everything?
I mean, I guess ultimately I shouldn't be surprised, even though I very briefly was. But Panthers came out of the gate right away and just dominated. I mean, right at puck drop, the whole first period was just all Panthers. I mean, hell, the first half of the period, Toronto couldn't even get out of their own zone. It was all Panthers from start to finish. I thought everybody looked great. Bob had an amazing game. No surprise there. He's good for being clutch in Game 7, or winner take all games, I should say. Brad Marchand was just, I mean, he was running that game last night for the Panthers. He was so instrumental in that win. He had 3 points, and who else to deliver the final dagger than Brad Marchand with the empty net when they were already up 5-1. And I thought it was great. I thought the offense looked great. Defense looked great. The Leafs looked very defeated. I was beside myself. Obviously, I was at home watching the game by myself, but that didn't stop me from yelling at my TV in my living room in the best way possible. It's a tale as old as time, man. Toronto losing a Game 7. I don't care what round it is. And Brad Marchand, the Leaf killer, delivers as always. There's just so much to be happy about right now. And now we got ourselves a trip back to the third round for the third straight year.
Yeah, and we'll get more into this series a little bit later as we get ready to set up the conference finals and stuff. But last night, after the second period, I turned the game off and put The Sopranos on with my wife.
And I got pissed at you.
Yeah, I texted you in our group chat with our wives and our mother and just said, oh, Leafs are going to roll over and die in the third, and we're tap dancing on their graves on the pot.
Yep, and we certainly will.
Yeah, and we definitely will, because that game, the series itself was nuts, but that game specifically, well, the 2 periods I watched, there's a lot to take out of it, but we'll get to that. Just a couple of similar to our last show, just a couple of housekeeping things that we should get to around hockey. First one is congrats to the Ottawa Charge and Minnesota Frost. Those ladies will be competing for the Walter Cup in the PWHL. Minnesota's looking to defend its title that it won last year. So it is good as a Minnesota hockey fan to see one of the teams, put forth a championship effort and what's now back-to-back seasons. We'll see if the Frost can get these last 3 wins here to bring it all home, but we'll see what happens. Only time will tell. So, but congrats again to those ladies on both teams for great seasons, and we'll see. At least for me, hopefully the Frost can bring home another championship, because that would be cool. The state of hockey needs more winners, because right now it's not the Wild, and it hasn't ever been, quite frankly.
Yeah, I was going to say, how about the Frost running it back for a second time?
Yeah, it's a great, man. They just put together an unbelievable team. Taylor Heisey is just a machine. Kendall Coyne-Schofield's an absolute unit. Sophie Jace is kind of an unsung hero for them. The goaltending between Maddie Rooney and Nicole Hensley is unbelievable. Nicole Hensley's really just brought her A game this season for the Frost. I know they squeaked in on literally the last day of the season, but boy, they're a team that just looks like they're built for the playoffs. They never seem to run out of gas. They always seem to have an answer, and it's exciting to watch. So I'm interested to see how they'll fare in this final. And again, it's nice to see championship level hockey being played in St. Paul.
I agree with you, and I think if you're an NHL fan and you're not watching the PWHL, you absolutely need to. You are truly missing out. I would say it's just as good as NHL hockey. These women play their asses off. It's highly entertaining. It's good quality hockey.
Yeah, it's as good. And again, the league's growing too. They're going to be up to 8 teams starting next season. So be excited to see where the league grows from here. But it looks like we've mentioned this before. It looks like they finally found what should be a winning formula on or for women's hockey, not this league specifically, but this league seems to be the winning formula. So hopefully it stays that way long term.
Yeah, I think, this league's only going to get bigger, and I'm excited for it. And the bigger it gets, the more competitive it's going to get. So I think we're in for a real treat moving forward. And we'll see where it goes. I'm excited for it as well.
Oh, also another Minnesota Frost shout out, Lee Steckline, who's an absolute unit too. She's unreal. Just a great player, great defender, great shooter. Just everything you want out of a hockey player. Very complete player, an Olympian too. I mean, she's awesome. So. Again, I don't want to be too one-sided on this, but I don't watch really. The only Ottawa Charge games I've watched are the games they've played against the Frost, so it's kind of hard to make that comparison. But again, I want to give the ladies in Minnesota the love they deserve, because they are giving, again, Minnesota hockey fans who are starved for success something to cheer for. So it's pretty cool. All right, let's get back to the NHL side of hockey. So the first one, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention this, especially since one of us is a Panthers fan. How about Doug Sifu completely losing his fucking mind on Twitter, deactivating his account and getting suspended indefinitely by, I think, the league, not just the Panthers. Just some really off the chain, wild ass comments about Canada and Israel, and just, it was a mess. This is a guy who's what is he, the vice chairman for the team, and now he's not even allowed to be around the team.
He was the vice chairman for Sunrise Sports Entertainment, which I believe overall is the group that owns the Panthers. But nevertheless, yeah, I mean, dude, I was just, as soon as I saw that, I was like, great, that one now makes the whole organization look like shit. Obviously, that is not what the Panthers represent. But number two, I was just like, well, this guy just lost his job because he wanted to run a stupid mouth. So,
yeah, and I'm glad the NHL took action quickly. I'm glad that this really hasn't been anything that's exploded too much in the media for the players, because this has nothing to do with the players. This is I know they're on the team, but this has everything to do with a guy that was being a big baby who filled up his diaper at mock speed in a game his team won, of all things.
Yeah.
But it was just stupid, and I'm glad that it hasn't affected the players or the coaches. I'm glad the media has been pretty professional about this, and I'm glad the league acted quickly on this. They 100% did the right thing. Just isolate the problem and get rid of it altogether. So I like that. We usually don't praise the NHL for how they handle things, but this, they hit right on the head. And there could be further actions on this at a later date, but for now, with everything going on, the Panthers are still on a run right now. You don't want to get too involved with this, worry about repercussions later. Just get him out of the picture so we can focus on the hockey, and that's what we like to do. We don't like to play the political game. We don't like to do any of that. We like to talk puck, and the NHL is kind of allowing business to go on as usual while this guy's cast off to the side.
Yeah, I think they handled it perfectly, and that shit has no business anywhere. But
it was bad. It was a terrible look. But again, and people instantly jump to attack the whole organization. And again, it is a bad look when it's somebody who's so high ranking in their ownership group or their operational group. But again, it's been handled. And if there's further action, we'll comment on that later. But for now, we'll move on. It's just something that I'm like, we have to mention it. It was so out of nowhere and unbelievable. Right. All right. Couple coaches hired. So Adam Foote goes to is picked as Vancouver's head coach. The noise around Vancouver and around the league is this is a keeping Quinn Hughes happy hire. So we'll see what's happened. Jim Rutherford made some stupid comments about the other Hughes brothers needing to come to Vancouver, which is definitely tampering, but he wasn't fined for tampering. But ultimately, for the Canucks, it's very important they keep Quinn Hughes happy. He's one of the best defenders on earth. He's your captain. He is the heart and soul of that team, at least right now. And so for them, it's 100%. I think it's 100% the right move to keep him happy. I've heard some pundits say that, you can't focus on what one guy wants when you're trying to run a whole organization. But I think when your team's in a position like the Canucks are, you just came off a nightmarishly bad season. Ourselves included, nobody imagined the Canucks season being this bad. I think in our season preview, I think we picked them to be near the top of the division. I think word for word, I said it was going to be them and the Oilers racing for the number one spot in the Pacific Division, which ironically was neither of them. But yeah, when you're in a situation like they're in now, they lose Miller this season through trade. Pedersen is not playing to his potential with the contract he just signed. Demko took forever to come back, and the team just wasn't effective on the ice. And it just seemed like Quinn Hughes is the lone bright spot in that group. And there are still some good players there, but you needed to bring in kind of a peacemaker, and you got to keep Quinn Hughes happy while this team goes through what's going to be some kind of growing pains this offseason as they look to readjust and retool their franchise to make it competitive, hopefully for them as soon as next year.
Well, I think you brought up a great point saying that this is a keep Quinn Hughes happy move. And I think that is the right move. You said, you typically don't want to focus everything around one player on the team, but when it's the guy you're building the team around, I think it's absolutely essential in a situation like this. So I think it's a great move for the organization. And as you just mentioned, coming off a horrendous season like they had, one that nobody expected them to have, you got to make a change, and you got to make a change quick. So ultimately, I think this is a great move, and hopefully it bodes well for them for the upcoming season, because I mean, with the way they are, this is a team that should be a contender.
Yeah, definitely. Now the Canucks' former coach, Rick Tocchet, lands in Philly, which Flyers fans are just feeling themselves now. Tocchet is if I remember the stat right, Rick Tocchet is the Flyers' all-time leader in Gordie Howe hat tricks, which is hilarious. Not hilarious, but just it's crazy that he's going to be the coach there now after being such a beloved player there. So that'll be a lot of fun. There's a lot of good young talent in Philly. I know we kind of praised the Ducks with the Quenneville hiring, where Quenneville's going to have a lot of young talent there. That guys like Gauthier, can he revive Zegras' slump that he had, or revive his skill that he had? Sorry, get him out of the slump. Keep developing Troy Terry and McTavish and all those guys over there. Well, Tocchet's going to be in Philly, and he's got Mishkov, and he's got Forster, and so there's some good young players in Philly that I really think that going forward for the Flyers, again, there's still going to be some growing pains. They still need to figure out their goaltending. That's the glaring flaw in the team right now. But I think Tocchet's going to get these guys playing a more professional style of hockey. And not that Tortorella couldn't do that, but we know Tort's coaching style doesn't gel with every kind of player. And I think it showed with how well Mishkov exploded offensively after Torts was fired. I think he felt he was a little more free to play his own game. And I think one thing Rick Tocchet is good as doing as a coach is letting guys find their strengths and play to their strengths, and not trying to mold them into something they aren't as players. And I just think he understands each player's unique skill set quite a bit better than Tortorella does. And so for a team that's got a budding young star, specifically Matvei Mishkov, who's got an unbelievable offensive upside, I think having a coach like that will help him mold his game better and help him develop into, become a more consistent scoring threat on a nightly basis like we know he can be.
I'm ecstatic. I'm not a Flyers fan, but I'm ecstatic for this move. If I could have picked a place for Tocchet to land, it would have been Philly, for the exact reason that he's a Philadelphia legend. Not only that, I love him as a coach. I think he's a great coach. So I think this is a good pickup for Philly. And I truly think, I could be wrong here, but I truly think he can give this team the turnaround that they've been desperately searching for. And like you mentioned, they have some good young talent. It all comes down to who is overseeing the talent. And I think he's the right guy for the job. He's good with younger talent. I think that much like Joel Quenneville, and now I know these guys are vastly different as far as coaching goes, but they're both good with young talent. So I think Philly is going to be on the mend. I think this is the right move here. I love Torts, but I never truly thought Torts was the fit for Philly.
Yeah, another thing too with the Flyers, the famous Cutter Gauthier for Jamie Drysdale trade. So far, that's worked out really well for the Ducks. Cutter Gauthier looked outstanding this year, but Jamie Drysdale is still a good defenseman. I really think that under Tocchet, I think there's a chance to get him to rebound his game and step up a little more. But again, we mentioned some of the young talent they have. You look at a guy like Cates, and I mentioned Forrester, and Bobby Brink too is good, and Owen Tippett, I think he's actually expiring, but I think that's a guy you want to try and keep around. Like, there's some really good young players there, and I think they get Peltier in the trade with the Flames earlier this year. Like, there's plenty of opportunity for this team to take a huge step forward next year. And again, there's going to be some growing pains. I really don't like their defensive core as a whole. and they need a goalie. They just need a goalie. There's no ways around it. Ersson is just not good enough, and Kolosov, that's just them grasping at straws, having him on the roster. So that's good. There's some management moves they're going to need to make this team better. But as far as a bench boss, I really don't think you could have hired anybody better.
No, like I said, if I could have handpicked a landing spot for him, Philly would have been it. So
yeah,
and I think that's the kind of team that would highly benefit from his coaching style. So I think this is a great move. And as much as I can't stand Philly, I'm excited to see what he can do for them, and he's going to fit in there. If you're a Philly fan, you are beside yourself right now.
Yeah, you're happy, not beside yourself.
Beside yourself as in you're losing it with excitement.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, no, they should be thrilled.
Yeah,
I am excited to see what he can do with Bobby Brink, too. I think Bobby Brink, he's not a guy that gets talked about a lot, but he had a pretty good year. And I just, hang on, let me pull him up actually on Daily Faceoff, too, because Daily Faceoff has this thing where it shows you the percentage of, I think it's the percentage of fantasy teams a player's on. Let's see. Or percentage of fantasy leagues where the player's drafted. Sorry. Let's see. Bobby Brink, it says 48%. So that's, I mean, again, and there are fantasy hockey guys are diehards because you really have to know the ins and outs of really every team to be any good at fantasy. So I'm not a fantasy sports guy, but I'm excited to see what he can do. He got top line minutes with the Flyers this year and under a really good coach. I think he's going to flourish. I think having more opportunities with Mishkov, to generate some scoring, I think will do him well. But the Flyers definitely hit it on the head with this coaching hire, and I think there's still 4 or 5 teams that don't have a head coach, and I think they're all kicking themselves that they couldn't get Talk.
I would be too.
All right, last office / coaching announcement is Ken Holland, officially the GM of the Los Angeles Kings. He's got a mess to clean up. He does. LA again, coming off 4 straight playoff series losses to the Oilers. There's no way around it. Whatever they have built there, as good as it can be, it's not good enough to get it done in the playoffs. Holland has done an excellent job in his career at putting together championship caliber teams. I mean, he obviously won championships with the Red Wings teams that he built, and then put together this unbelievably good Oilers group as well. Look, and what's funny is the Oilers may win a Stanley Cup without him there of all things, but he knows how to build a roster. And so while I think LA is going to be faced with a troubled road ahead, it sounds like from all accounts that Holland's not going to be in LA super long term. But I don't think he needs to be. I think give him 2-3 seasons. It's all he needs to put together a team that's competent enough. He's seen what has worked over the last several decades as far as building a championship quality team. And I think he only needs a couple of years with the pieces LA already has. I think he only needs a couple of years to right the ship and leave the franchise in good hands to whoever his successor is. I don't think LA is that far away now that he is in charge of the show there. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think if anybody can turn that ship around, it's Ken Holland. So as far as Edmonton goes, it'd be kind of a downer to see them win the cup without him after all that work he put into that organization. But
especially because Stan Bowman's the GM there now.
Yeah, God. But I think LA will highly benefit from having him at the helm. He's a great GM, and I do think, under the right management, LA can eventually get it done. But I don't want to give him too much shit for this year against the Oilers, because the Oilers turned out to be better in the playoffs this year than I was expecting them to be. So
then pretty much everybody was, yeah. Well, except the odds makers. All the sports books still had them as like Stanley Cup favorites from the start of the playoffs. It was weird. But I digress. Quick shout out to Sam Gagner, retires after 1,043 games in the NHL. He'll join the Sens front office, I assume in a player development role, but I think most of us hardcore hockey fans will remember the Sam Gagner 8-point game against the Blackhawks when he was a member of the Oilers, which tied Wayne Gretzky for most points in a game by an Oiler, which is kind of crazy to think of. The two guys that have that record are Wayne Gretzky and then Sam Gagner.
Yeah.
So, kind of strange, but a very cool record. You can find the highlights of that game on YouTube. It's just absolutely crazy. With each point, it's just the disbelief grows and grows and grows. And it's kind of cool. So Congrats, Sam Gagne, and a career. Anybody that can play 1,000 games in the show is, it's the ultimate longevity test. So good for him. He broke into the league at a super young age and just never really went away. He always seemed to find a way to have a job in the league, and now he's got a job in the league after his playing days are done. So good on him.
Yeah, like I always say, anything over 500 games in the NHL doesn't happen by accident. So
yeah,
hell of a career, and I'm sure he'll do well with Ottawa in the front office. So.
I was going to say anything over 0 games. It doesn't happen by accident, but then look at Biz.
Yeah.
So,
how about Ryan Reeves?
Revo could fight. Revo was one of the best fighters in the league for years. Not these days, but Biz was just
him and Biz got the same amount of goals.
And then another one I want to shout out to the Medicine Hat Tigers, who just won the WHL championship. But Gavin McKenna goes on between regular season and playoffs, had a 54 game point streak consisting of 129 points over those 54 games. So, scoring at over 2 point a game pace on a 54 game point streak. It is very, very easy to see why this kid is by a mile consensus number 1 draft pick for next year. For next year's draft. This kid is unbelievable. If you watch his highlights, he could probably play in the NHL now if he was old enough to. I mean, he's just so talented. He's miles better than everybody. I have to imagine Medicine Hat is a favorite for the Memorial Cup. I know the London Knights just had a really good finish in the OHL championship. Rimouski and Moncton, the Wildcats, just finished up the QMJHL championship too. And I'm excited for the Memorial Cup to see the results. I really think it's going to be London or Medicine Hat. But it's really hard to see the Tigers not winning the Memorial Cup now with being able to just score at will. I mean, they're just miles better than everybody. So we'll see how it goes. The Knights have a good team too, and the Wildcats and the Oceanic just played each other in the QMJHL championship too. So we'll see. It'll be a fun little tournament this year, and I'm sure all those youngsters are excited. But yeah, this Gavin McKenna, I can't wait to see this kid get into the show
when he goes to the Islanders.
No, he's in next year's draft, not this year's draft.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't know who the Islanders. Yeah, this year's the Islanders picked the wrong year to get the lucky draft lottery. They should have had that next year, but whoever wins it next year, there's already teams now who don't want to trade their first round pick for next year's draft, just in case they have a shitty season. Because if you get a chance at this kid, you're taking it. Because whoever wins it's like I would put this on the same level as the McDavid and Eichel draft. Everybody wants number 1. Everybody wants number 1. There's no missing on this kid at all. I think he's going to come in and have the same impact Connor McDavid did, where he comes in and he's just a mile better than half the league from day one. And then by the end of his second season, he's already pretty much the best player in the league. I think we're going to get there very quick with him, but we'll have to wait and see. That won't be for another 18 months or so that we get to see this kid play. So that's too bad, or at least in the NHL, obviously he'll play a whole nother season of junior or go to the NCAA. I don't know what he's planning on doing. So, all right. Last one. Minnesota signs Danila Yurov. Holy cow, it's a mouthful. It's going to be fun to say.
Say it dry.
To his entry-level contract. Wild fans will know they've been waiting on this kid to come over from Russia for a while. The last time the Wild waited on a huge prospect to come over from Russia, they were rewarded with Kirill Kaprizov. This kid's Yurov, his ceiling isn't quite as high, but for the Wild, it's important because they're looking to get a center. He is a center. It sounds like based on the contract he has with the Wild that he's going to be making the team out of camp, because it sounds like he's not planning on playing in the AHL. So it's either he makes the team or he goes back to Russia. Skill-wise, I think I believe it was Kirill Kaprizov and I think Nikita Kucherov broke their KHL scoring records. And so the upside for this kid is very good. I'll be interested to see what he can do with the Wild. But again, and we'll talk about them more later in the offseason when we talk about each team. But for the Wild, it's paramount that they find some good centers to help Joel Eriksson shoulder the load. And I think this kid may be exactly what they're looking for based on his highlights. So we'll see what happens. But for the Wild, a very, very good for them to finally get this year off. They've been waiting on him for 2-3 seasons now to come over. So there's some exciting times ahead, hopefully, but glad Billy G was able to get this one signed and get this kid the hell over here. All right. And now with that, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to listen to our friends over at Xenopucks and hear what they have to offer us. And then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the playoff series we just witnessed and talk about the two that we have in front of us now. We'll be right back. This is the Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast.
It's hockey season, and you're looking to work on your stick handling or maybe even your shot, but ice time just isn't an option for you right now. Luckily, our buddies over at Xenopucks have got you covered. They've developed an elite off-ice practice puck that, in addition to looking like the real thing, is the same size and weight as a regulation hockey puck to give you that authentic feel on the end of your stick. It works better than other off-ice practice pucks on almost any surface, whether you use it on hardwood, carpet, concrete, or even asphalt. Xenopucks glide like a real puck on ice. So if you're looking to improve your game without setting foot on the ice, head over to www.xenopucks.com and get yourself a puck. Check out their merch selection and be sure to follow them on Instagram at Xenopucks.
All right, welcome back. So as I mentioned right before break, you're welcome. As I mentioned before break, well, let's talk about the 4 playoff series we just witnessed. So let's start in the West. Winnipeg, Dallas. This was a tough one. The way it ended, we'll get to in a second. But as far as the hockey itself goes, the Jets just could not overcome the slow start they had to the series. You lose game 1 at home, not a very promising way to start the series. They come back, they win game 2, but then they go to Dallas and get shelled. And it just felt like they were out of it after game 3. Obviously, they win game 5, but and Hellebuck did get better as the series went along, but it just wasn't enough. And then obviously the heartbreaking news right before game 6, we're finding out Mark Scheifele's father passed away. Decides to still play the game, scores a goal, has a great game, and unfortunately for him takes the most unfortunate penalty at the end of regulation, and the Stars score on the power play in overtime to close that out. And so Dallas, we knew going into this, was probably the favorite. I don't think anybody was surprised to see that, but I think after everything that happened with Scheifele and his father, I think everyone was just kind of cheering for them to at least force a game 7, give him one more shot in front of his home fans to see if they can close it out. But overall, the Jets, again, as far as the hockey goes, it's another season that comes up short, and it's starting to get to the point where you worry about, okay, is this group effective enough to get it done? And I know the Stars were loaded up, and I know they finally got healthy. They got Heiskanen back, and we'll talk about the Stars in a second. But for the Jets, you just start to wonder, is it just not enough with how loaded not only the conference is, but their division is so stacked now?
Yeah, and I mean, now I did sit here and say, oh, yeah, Dallas is going to sweep Winnipeg. And you were like, that is a hot take. And it
was.
I was instantly wrong, damn near. But you know, I knew Winnipeg had their work cut out for them right from the start against Dallas. Dallas was just looking dangerous right out of the gate in the first round. I was just like, wow, man, Dallas really surprised me this year. And I will say, you know, I'm not a Jets fan or Stars fan, but after Brad Scheifele passed away, I was really hoping, like you said, that they would come back and force a game 7 just to give them one more shot. And, you know, I didn't say it out loud, but I know we were both thinking it. Actually, I might have said it to you in a text when you texted me and you said Mark Scheifele was going to play. I was like, he's going to score. I don't know if I actually said that in the text message.
I don't remember if you did or not, but yeah, I think that was kind of the feeling. Like this feels like a game where he's going to get a goal. I didn't think he'd be their only goal, but that's a testament to how good Jake Ottinger was in the series. And
yes,
the Stars. I thought Rantanen was good in the series too, but I don't think anybody had the Mikhail Granlund hat trick on their bingo card for this series.
No.
But he looked great for them. That pickup is looking better and better by the day. Even I of all guys, like I knew it wouldn't be a bad pickup bringing him in. He's a good center. He's an effective player. Like I knew it wasn't going to hurt to bring in a guy with him to add some center depth for a playoff run. But a hat trick against the Jets, I did not have that on my bingo card. So
I don't think anybody did.
No, they didn't. And you know what? The Stars now, first of all, in the series again, Jake Ottinger just unbelievable. He's having a hell of a playoffs. It's kind of more looking like now that he's going to be the USA starting goalie for the Olympics next year. So part of that will depend on injury, you know, health status and how they both play next season. We'll see how it goes. Who knows? But right now, Ottinger is definitely looking like the better choice. I mean, they go head to head, and the team with Ottinger on it walks away with the victory. So it's kind of hard to argue with results like that. But for the Stars, they get Heiskanen back now. They're fully healthy. They're getting contributions all up and down the lineup. Sam Steele's play was really good, I thought, in this series too. But again, everybody's pitching in for the Stars, and that's what you need this time of year. Much in the same way the Panthers got scoring up and down the lineup in their Stanley Cup run last year. The Stars are getting a lot of that too. Sagan and Ben have been revitalized. Rantanen's been unbelievable. Granlund's been good. Sam Steele's been good. Their defense core, which has been much maligned by me, I've never thought it's been good enough this whole season, really. But they're all stepping up. They're playing defense by committee. They survived these two hellacious series without Miro Heiskanen, and I know they want to get Jason Robertson really going now. It's time for him to ramp up the intensity for the conference finals. But as far as a complete team, I mean, they look as dangerous as anybody.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And, I can see we'll get to that, but I can see the conference final going any which way. Both definitely. Those teams are just incredible, but I can say if anybody can beat the Oilers right now, it's Dallas, but I can turn right around and say if anybody can beat Dallas right now, it's Edmonton. It's just such a fair, even across the board matchup. I think that's going to be a hell of a series, which we'll get to that. But I agree. Overall, this is disappointing if you're a Jets fan. Another season that ends the way you didn't want it to, but at least you're not a Leafs fan. I think Dallas.
We'll get.
Oh, dude, I can't. I'm like shaking. I'm so excited.
I'm making you wait to do that one last.
That's fine. But I think Dallas is a wagon, man. There's just no other way to say it. They are a very dangerous team, and I'm not a Stars fan by any stretch, but I know if I was a Stars fan, I'd be losing my mind right now in a good way because they just look incredible.
They definitely have me punching the air when I watch TV. That's for sure.
Well, you hate Dallas,
but. Yeah, so and to touch on your point on the Jets, look, first of all, it's their first year under Scott Arniel, and you win the President's Trophy. I know it's tough to hang your hat on that when it's kind of been the same story year after year with not getting it done in the playoffs, but give this group a chance to reload and try again. Obviously, I think they'll need to make some pretty significant roster tweaks this offseason. You can't run it back with the exact same group. I'm on the side of they should not bring back Nikolai Ehlers. I don't think he was that effective in the playoffs. I know he had an assist on that tying goal in Game 7 against St. Louis, but that came off of a desperation pass after two flub chances when nobody was covering him. So I don't think he was that effective, or as effective at least as they would want him to be. And so I'm of the ilk that they should not bring him back and should look to explore different options to address their scoring. I think a Mitch Marner is a good fit there, which a lot of people might be screaming at their phones or their computers when they hear me say that, but you just need a different brand of hockey. And we'll get to Marner later on too. I think leaving Toronto is going to be the best thing that's happened for that kid's career, because he's going to explode offensively with somebody else in the playoffs. I just know it. But for the Jets, you can't run it back with this exact same group. You need to make some tweaks, and Hellebuck just needs to be better. So as they go into the offseason and try and address the flaws in their team, I'll be interested to see what Kevin Cheveldayoff puts together.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify. I truly think Winnipeg has a very bright future. Like, the one thing I didn't want to do was come on here and bash Winnipeg, because I don't think they deserve it at all. I obviously, like you mentioned, there's some things they need to tweak, and a lot of things depend on Connor Hellebuck being consistent too. So there's just things there, but this is a great group right here, and I think Scott Arniel's I think with him at the helm, I think the only way to go is up from here. So, try and run it again next year and see what happens. There's ultimately, it didn't end the way you wanted it to, but there's nothing to hang your head about.
Yeah, and I think, and I've from the beginning, I've been a fan of them when they got Alex Iafallo and Gabe Velarde from the Kings for PL Dubois. I mean, I thought that was a great move from the beginning, and both of those players have been very effective for the Jets. So there's good pieces there. Perfetti's still so young. There's plenty of chances for him to develop into the weapon that I know he can be. So we'll see what happens. But for the Stars, it's full speed ahead now. They look like a well-oiled machine, and it's funny I say well-oiled because the team they're going to be playing in this next round of the playoffs is the Edmonton Oilers. So the Oilers, look, they have proved everybody wrong these playoffs. Everybody almost everybody had them dead to rights against the Kings. They go down 2-0. They steamroll them, win 4 in a row. Then they take out, another team everybody has pegged to win the cup is Vegas, and they go run them over in 5 games. They just look unstoppable. They're almost healthy now. Ekholm is skating. Won't play game 1 or 2, but should be back in this conference final series. Their forward depth has been as good as anybody's. I saw somebody on Instagram call them a one-line team, which couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, they're getting contributions all up and down the lineup. I think Kane's been effective. Adam Henrique's been effective. Connor Brown's had a couple of good games. Kapanen gets the OT winner to eliminate Vegas. Corey Perry's been effective. Trent Frederick, now that he's healthy, is going. You don't even have to speak on Draisaitl and McDavid and the Nuge because they're all going. Their defensive group has stepped up in Ekholm's absence. Brett Kulak's really shown out. Evan Bouchard has finally stepped his game up. He needed to big time. Darnell Nurse is starting to get going. Troy Stetcher, I don't know if he's the Darnell Nurse whisperer or what, but he's been very effective on that pair with Darnell Nurse. Jake Wallman and John Klingberg were deadline guys, and they've come in and have been outstanding for the Oilers. Stuart Skinner, who nobody with a brain thought this guy was going to be of any kind of use.
Especially me.
But Pickard goes down with the injury, and Stuart Skinner comes in, and he's just been good. I know he had what I thought was a crap first game against Vegas, and then was a back-to-back shutouts, and then it's crazy. I cannot believe that he has found his form again at the exact time they needed him to. If this team can stay as it is and get Ekholm back, buckle up. This West final is going to be insane. And go ahead with your comments on the Oilers before we get to Vegas.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that everybody was counting them out against the Kings. I sat right here on this show when we did our first round preview, and I said, I say our first round preview, but we were already 2 games into the series at that point when we did that episode. But I sat here and said, I was like, this is the year the Kings are going to get past them, and there's no way around it. The Kings haven't figured it out, and I was wrong. And that was one thing I'll always do is admit when I'm wrong. When I'll come on here and say, I look stupid now. But in my defense, nobody thought that they were beating the Kings this time around. Everybody, the way the Kings jumped out to an early lead on them, I didn't think they were going to be able to pull it off. And now they turn around and, you got all these guys getting hot at the right time. And I mean, specifically Stuart Skinner, who's just been solid in net for them. I don't think anybody could have predicted that coming. I should have tried to get the Stuart Skinner money line, man. I'd be loaded right now.
I also don't think anybody thought bringing in Jake Wallman and John Klingberg was going to bring them any extra success. And John Klingberg has rekindled his defensive skill, and the fact that he's just been so useful for them down the stretch here. And Jake Wallman to a slightly lesser extent, but both of those players got dumped on when Stan Bowman brought him in. Oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. And I don't know if we specifically mentioned it on the show when they came over, but it just didn't seem like it was going to help them at all. Everybody said they needed a goalie. Well, they got 2 defenders who in Ekholm's absence have been absolutely necessary to have in the lineup. And now Skinner stepped out. It's just crazy. I also think I didn't mention Matthias Janmark, who it just continues to be an absolute machine too. He is a great bottom 6 player. He's just so good.
Look, man, the Oilers didn't get here for no reason.
Yeah.
Exactly. They belong where they are. They are an absolutely great team. One thing I want to touch on too is you mentioned Bouchard getting hot earlier, and that needed to happen not just for the Oilers, but that needed to happen for him. I mean, that was absolutely instrumental in going forward for him. So as much as I don't want to risk having to play them again in the final, I'm nervous as shit. That's the only way I'm going to word it, man. I mean, this team is scary. So
yeah, they are. And now I want to take a look at Vegas real quick before we move on. Look, there's no other way to say it. This is a disappointing end of the season for Vegas. They had a slow start against Minnesota in round 1, but they found their legs quickly, got themselves back in that series, and then won it. And it looked after games 5 and 6 that it looked like they were ready to go. Eichel looked like he was finding his stride. Stone was going. It looked like it was Vegas we all were knowing and loving. But I think it was pretty apparent towards the end that Theodore was still banged up. Alex Pietrangelo was very obviously banged up. Braden McNabb didn't look like he was 100%. Jack Eichel probably wasn't 100%. Mark Stone didn't even play game 5. Like, there were some bumps and bruises throughout this lineup. Aiden Hill's play, except for Game 5, I really wasn't crazy about how he looked the entire playoffs. Really, I think for Vegas there was just a lot of injuries that weren't super apparent, especially after round 1, but I think it caught up to them, and the Oilers were just a full speed ahead, and they couldn't keep up with them. And for Vegas, there's no mistaking that they're still one of the best teams in the Western Conference. Obviously, there will be some roster tweaks this offseason. Vegas is not ever a team that's rested on its laurels. They go out and they try and do everything they can to make the best team possible every season. And I expect nothing different this offseason from them. They will not be happy with this result one bit, and I have to imagine that there is some kind of big move in the waiting. I don't know if it's shipping out a bunch of guys so they can bring in Marner, or if they try and bring in Patrick Kane, or I'm just throwing names out there, but you just know something's already brewing in Vegas's mind what they're going to do to make this team the best in the league next year.
And that's exactly what they do, and that's why they've only ever had success since coming into the league. So it's that never quit mentality, and what can we improve? Even when they won the Cup in 23, it's like, all right, what do we do for next year? Granted, they bounced in the first round the following season, but nevertheless, that this team, you have an ownership group that is so committed to winning and doing whatever it takes to win. So they'll do what they always do. They'll shrug this off. You take it with a grain of salt. You come back twice as hard next year and see what you can pull off. So again, even if you're a Vegas fan, nothing to hang your head about. Obviously, Mark Stone not playing Game 5 is a huge factor for that team. That's a guy that you not only want, but you need out on the exactly. So just a lot of things that didn't fall into place for Vegas, and it was a surprising exit. Am I surprised that they lost that series? Not necessarily. I'm just surprised that
it was that quick.
Yeah, exactly. That was a series I fully expect. Once Edmonton beat LA, I thought for sure that was going to be probably like a 6-7 game series.
Pretty sure I had Vegas in like 5 or 6 in that one.
Yeah. So I mean that's the beautiful thing about this sport, man, is you just, no matter what you think you know, you never truly know. So
that's a great segue into this next one, because boy, I could not, if I tried, I could not have been more wrong about the Carolina Hurricanes and Washington Capitals series.
And I was right.
Yes, you were. I thought for sure there's no way one of the league's most potent offenses was going to show up and score 7 goals across 5 games. But the Caps absolutely run out of gas, fall flat on their face against the Hurricanes. Even after they go down early in that series, I'm like, in my head, I'm just like, that offense, it's kind of come to life. Ovechkin, Protas is healthy, but they got Beauvillier going. Like this team is just waiting to explode. And I thought it was coming, and it just didn't. Full marks to Freddie Anderson, who shut me the hell up. It looked outstanding. I think as it sits right now, he is the 3rd favorite to win the Conn Smythe Trophy, which is wild. Right. The Hurricanes, no secret, are the best shutdown defending team in the league. I just thought Washington's offense was just going to come at him too much and overwhelm him. But the Canes, it was the most boring hockey series I think anybody's ever watched in their lives, unless you're a fan of the Hurricanes. But full marks to them. They have a brand. They stuck to it. It worked for them. I mean, they made light work of the Capitals. I couldn't believe it. I could not have been more wrong. And we know where my opinion on the Canes stands. I'm still waiting for them to do something in the conference final. They need to make the Stanley Cup final for me to take them seriously. And quite frankly, I think they need to win it for me to take them seriously. But you can only go one round at a time. They got to make some noise now in the conference final. They had 2 very easy series the first 2 rounds. They made light work of the Devils because of all the injuries. They shut down one of the best offenses in the league and made them look just so anemic offensively. It was unbelievable. So they shut me right up, but now it's time for them to double down on that and get something done in the conference final. And for Washington, it's kind of weird, right? It's kind of weird for the Caps, because we go into the season, we're all thinking nothing's going to happen. Let's worry about the OV goal chase. He breaks the record. The Caps finish with the 2nd best record in the league. And all of a sudden it's like, wait, it's like these guys can go win the Stanley Cup, and it just fizzles out. But it's almost like, are you disappointed? Should you be disappointed? Should you be happy? It's weird.
It's a weird situation to be in. I say, overall, no, you shouldn't be disappointed, because the season, as far as the Caps go, surpassed every single person's expectations. I can't imagine there was a person out there at the beginning of the season that said, yeah, the Caps are going to dominate the league this year. Nobody was saying that at the beginning of the season, to include us. We were like, we said it. just enjoy the OV goal chase, because that's what we all have to look forward to this year and nothing else. So they far exceeded expectations. They could have bounced in the first round and you should have had nothing to be mad at. Great season for the Caps. They fell flat on their ass in the second round. It just is what it is. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs. And like you said, Carolina has the best shutdown defense in the league. Now going forward for them in the conference final, you're coming into a mostly fully healthy Florida Panthers team, other than Kachuk, who's very obviously still hurt, but still sticking it out and playing. But I said this to you on the phone earlier today, and of course, when I say this, I'm speaking prior to how the Leafs performed. But as far as opponents go for the Panthers, the Carolina Hurricanes offense is going to be the easiest offense that Florida has played against so far in this series. They made it through Tampa. They made it through Toronto. Granted, Toronto's offense played like shit, but nevertheless, this is going to be the easiest offense they face. And while Carolina has the best shutdown defense in the league, the Panthers aren't far behind. They play that same style of in your face, you're not getting shit past us defense. And on top of that, look what they did. Carolina's blue line needs to be on high alert right now, because Florida is great at causing turnovers. And if you watch this Panthers-Leafs series, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They wore that blue line the hell out, and Carolina needs to be on the lookout for that. Now, that being said, I think, well, I don't want to get to this yet because we're not making predictions yet, but this is going to be a true test of how good Carolina actually is, because like you said, they had essentially two buys for the first two rounds. You played a Devils team that was beat the hell up, and then you play a Washington team that just forgot that you're supposed to put pucks in the back of the net. So this is going to be a true test for them. And while I don't think they'll be swept, or I don't think they'll be swept like they were the last two times in the conference final, I do think that they will win a couple games in this series. So, and like you said, a lot of that too is on Freddie Anderson, who is far surpassed people's expectations of him. And he's one of those guys where, he's inconsistent, but when if he's on a heater, man, you're not getting anything by him. So as long as he can maintain that, and as long as they can keep the momentum going, that's going to be a hell of a series for them against Florida.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. And we'll get to that more when we set that series up. I want to go back to Washington and just mention, look, this team, again, finished second in the league this year. It wasn't by mistake. Overall, the roster is structured pretty well, but you look on the back end, it's a really solid core, but John Carlson's 35. He's obviously not going to get younger. And Ovechkin, his next season will be his final in the NHL from everything we can tell to this point. So, the Capitals are going to probably, I would think, start to look at tweaking their roster a little bit as they get into this next chapter, with Ovi and Carlson seemingly going to be on their way out pretty soon. The Caps need to double down on bringing up the next generation of Caps players. And it started now with Alexi Protas. He's a great year. PL Dubois has found he's found something deep within to make himself a good hockey player again. Connor McMichael's a great young player. Ryan Leonard, we'll see what he can do with the full season in the show. On the back end, Sandin is a great player. Chychrun had an absolute renaissance season this year. Unbelievable year for him. Matt Roy, who came over, I think it was from LA. Great defender. TVR has been effective for them. So there are good pieces here. I think Logan Thompson would probably tell you, he'd be the first one to tell you that he needed to be better in the playoffs too. That was part of their problem, was he just wasn't good enough, especially that series winner by Svechnikov. Oh, that was bad. That was a bad goal to let in. But I think the Caps, there's a lot of good pieces here. And so while life after Ovechkin might not be super glamorous in theory for them right now, I think they got the right building blocks in place that if they can plug in some good free agency pickups and develop some of their young talent that they have down in Hershey, I think this team could still compete. It'll just be weird to see him without Ovechkin in the future.
Absolutely, but that certainly doesn't mean that it's downhill from here.
No,
I
not
think,
even a little.
yeah, no, they're trending upwards, and I
Yeah,
think it's going to
they
stay
changed
that
the
way.
narrative big time. They won this season. They absolutely changed the narrative about what their organization is going to look like 2-3 years from now. They absolutely did. And full marks to Carberry. It will be a crime if he does not win the Jack Adams Trophy this year.
I'm 100% on board with you. I think we said that same thing a couple episodes ago.
Yeah,
There's no way it goes. If it goes to anybody else, get rid of the award.
and I
Because
know
obviously
Arneal
it's
was in his
meaningless.
first year, and the Jets did finish with a better record. But look at the Jets going into this year with no hindsight bias. You looked at the Jets, you looked at the Caps. If someone would have said, "Hey, the Jets are going to win the President's Trophy," you're like, all right, well, that means Hellebuck was probably sick all year, and they found ways to score, and that's kind of what they did. I mean, that amazing start they had to the year. If you looked at the Caps last year and you're like, yeah, Dubois is going to be an absolute unit on the power play. Strom's going to be a superstar. Protas is going to put up 30 goals, and they're just going to be a wagon, and Ovi's going to break his leg and still have over 40 goals and break the record, and Logan Thompson's going to be one of the best goalies in the NHL. You would have been like, okay.
Yeah, time to put the crack pipe down.
Yeah, let's get you to bed, Grandpa. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I do want to congratulate the Caps on a season that proved a lot of people wrong. And they're, again, it's not perfect, and I know their second round demons kind of still haunt them, other than the one cup year. But for the Canes, again, they absolutely proved me wrong that series. They shut down one of the most potent offenses there is. And now again, we'll get to them in a minute, but they're going to look towards a series with the Panthers where they're going to go into this with a little bit of an advantage because they haven't been put through the ringer like the rest of these other teams have.
Yep.
So if you've waited long enough.
I sure have, and I'm bouncing in my seat right now.
The final series of round 2 was the Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs. The Leafs come into this feeling good after beating the Sens in the Battle of Ontario. They win their first 2 games pretty convincingly at home, and it starts to look like this might get away from the Panthers really quick. They go to overtime in game 3, and it's like, oh my God, if Toronto wins this, they're up 3-0, and the Panthers cup defense is going to explode in their face in round 2. Instead, what happened?
Comes Mr. Leaf Killer.
Take us the rest of the way. Everything from that overtime to the end of the series. Andrew, what did you see?
Everybody, enjoy the ride. So who else but Mr. Leaf Killer himself, Brad Marchand, comes in game 3, scores the overtime winner. And granted, it was a deflection, but his shot was deflected by, I think it was Nylander, actually. It was either him or Riley. I can't remember. Not important. Marchand scores the OT winner, essentially kicking all the Leafs fans in the balls. One of my favorite things ever. Keeps them from going down 3-0 in the series, because I even said to you, if the Panthers go down 3-0 in this series, it's over. And I was actually legitimately nervous. So once that happened, I was like, all right, we got ourselves a series now. And then we sat on this show and I said, okay, you got Joseph Woll in net. If you're the Panthers, you need to capitalize on this while you still can. They come out in game 4. They play a great game. They come away with the win again. And then they go into game 5 in Toronto.
And then what?
And then I think the Leafs just forgot that they're a hockey team in the National Hockey League. The Panthers come out and kick the shit out of them 6-1. Bobrovsky has a great game. I should also point out that in that game, during the first period, the Leafs spent 90% of the first period on the penalty kill for that. It was just call after call. And I will say, as far as officiating goes, every penalty that was called that game, I think was 100% justified on both sides too, even on the Panthers. But the Panthers had 4 power plays in the first period. That's just pure insanity. And while they only scored on one of them, nevertheless, you can't go on the penalty kill 4 times in one period and expect to win hockey games. Not only that, their offense fails to produce. Bob had a shutout going into the final minute of the third period. Bob stood on his head. Granted, he only faced 22 shots the whole game, and Florida absolutely peppered Joseph Woll. And part of you do feel bad for the guy when the team in front of him isn't doing jack shit to help him. And I will say in game 4, the Panthers only won that game 2-0. And that was because of Joseph Woll, who absolutely stood on his head and gave the Leafs a chance to win that game. And they just couldn't produce in game 4. And then ultimately they go back to Toronto, tied 2-2 in the series, and Panthers come out and kick the shit out of them, win 6-1. So now I'm feeling real good. We got a 3-2 series lead. We're going home to Sunrise in front of the Panthers faithful, all 6 of our fans. And I was like, man, they got a chance to send these guys home in front of their fans. This will be a great way to do it. And Joseph Wall stands tall for Toronto, blanks the Panthers. The Panthers looked a little defeated that game. Definitely not their best stuff. I wasn't super impressed with how the Leafs looked either. They just looked better than the Panthers for that game.
They took advantage of the few chances they had.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a super spectacular game, but I was actually very impressed with Joseph Woll. And I think if you can ice a good team in front of him, he's actually a decent goaltender. So now Leafs come away with the win in Sunrise, and now it's got me like, oh shit, this is not good, because now we're going to Toronto for Game 7, and that is a loud building to play in. And I can speak for Spears because I was there for a regular season game and it was loud. So I wasn't feeling too confident, and I know I had expressed my concerns to you, and you had said to me, have some faith. It is the Leafs after all. And I was like, yeah, it's the Leafs, but it's not Boston playing them. Slightly forgetting that they do have the Leaf killer on their team, and that nevertheless.
Real quick, I want to interject too. The other thing I mentioned to you is that, look, after they went down 2-0, if I told you that they were going to take it to a Game 7 to decide the whole series, you would have taken that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So
they were up 3-1 in Game 3. Like it looked like they were on an express route to the golf course, and instead continue.
Yeah. So, Game 7 rolls around, me not remembering Brad Marchand is Leaf killer, and he's on the Panthers. And aside from that, it's the Leafs in a Game 7, and we know how that's worked out for them for the last decade at least. So nevertheless, the Panthers come out and pretty dominant right out of the gate. They don't score in the first. It's a scoreless first period, but first period, again, all Panthers. Leafs couldn't even get out of their zone until like 12 minutes into the first period.
The shot attempts to start the game, the first 10 minutes were 21-0 for the Panthers. I mean, attempts. The Leafs had no scoring chances, no shot attempts until I think after the 10-minute mark of the first period.
Absolutely. And so I was like, okay, well, if the Panthers can maintain this and not lose the momentum during the intermission, the second period should be pretty good. Seth Jones comes out in the second period. The Panthers still have that momentum. Seth Jones comes out, scores a beautiful goal.
Sniper.
Seth Jones, been a great fit in Florida. I love having him. I think he's really slotted in well. Had the playoff game of his career, I would argue. Then shortly thereafter, Anton Lundell scores one. Now it's 2-0 out of nowhere. And then 3 minutes later, or not 3 minutes later, a few minutes later, it was who scored that third goal?
I don't even remember who it was.
Dude, I can't remember because, again, the Panthers score 6 goals again. But I will say Marchand has 2 assists going here. Brad Marchand's play in this Game 7 was textbook Brad Marchand hockey, just so super aggressive on the puck. He was like, no matter what it takes to get on that puck, he was doing it. He's so smart when he plays the puck. My favorite thing he does is when he skates into the to the offensive zone, he's going full speed and he can stop on a dime and turn right around and go back the other way like it's nothing, and it breaks everybody's ankles every single time. He does it beautifully. He's always in the right place at the right time. He ends up having 2 great assists. Ultimately, the Leafs pull the goalie with 3 minutes left. They're down 5-1, and who else but Brad Marchand scores the empty net goal to make it 6-1 and just twist the knife in the hearts of Leafs fans. And it results in the Panthers coming away with the Game 7 win and going on to the Eastern Conference Final for the 3rd year in a row. And for the Leafs and their fans, yet another Game 7 heartbreak. I just don't know, if you're a Leafs fan, how you can sit there and go through this year after year and just tolerate it. But I'm happy. So,
by the way, Jonah Gadjevich scored the 3rd goal. Since you said you didn't know who it was, I've been trying to look it up, but the ESPN website and the NHL website are virtually fucking worthless for finding box scores. Holy shit, is that an absolute joke? Sorry, that just pissed me off how long I had to look for that. I couldn't remember. I ended up using my app. Yeah, it was Jonah Gadjevich, then Lusterinen, Reinhardt, and Marchand got goals 4, 5, and 6 for them. But yeah, it's to your point about the Leafs. I think the fans are over it. I think the tossed jerseys in games 5 and 7 scream that they're done with it. Booing them off the ice in game 7, booing them off the ice when they saluted the crowd. It's been 9 years of this shit with this group. The previous decade before these guys got there was probably, as far as quality of hockey, just overall skill, was probably the worst Leafs team like ever. Like, it was just the worst era in Leafs history as far as overall on ice talent. This group had good talent, but probably, I think the right way to say it is, this is the most disappointing area of Leafs hockey. When you look at the money this space spent, the time they invested, the overall skill of these players that aren't able to get it done, I think this is really, for any team, probably as disappointing a run as you could have in a 9-year span. In the first 3-4 years, you understand there's going to be growing pains. They're young guys. They need to learn how to lose. They need to lose so they can learn how to win. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then running it back these last 5 years specifically, it's just we've got to the point every season, and even after last season, after the loss to the Bruins, it felt like, all right, this is the year they blow it up. Well, now Marner and Tavares are free agents. They're almost certainly going to be gone. Shanahan's going to be gone. It's the blow up is finally happening. The Leafs fans are over it, and this is it. It's kind of like I said, we're going to kind of tap dance on their graves because this team, as popular as it is, swallows up so many of the big headlines around the league, and it gets to the point where pretty much the other 31 fan bases all are just so fucking irritated with this team and hearing about them in the core four and blah, blah, blah. So for most of us, it's like, thank God it's finally done so we can stop listening to these fucking idiots and hearing about this group that doesn't get it done. In my opinion, as a neutral fan here, it's like, ship everybody out of town but like Matthew Nyes and Bobby McMahon. Those were the only guys that showed some fucking stones for them in this series. I think Matthew Nyes really, really is going to be a good hockey player for a long time. He's built, first of all, he's built like a Mack truck, but just shows a lot of heart every game. I thought he was their best looking guy on almost every night. I think Bobby McMahon too is another one where, a depth player, but a guy that's that just has a lot of heart. He's going to go give it 150% every single shift. And outside of that, blow the whole thing up. Who cares? It sucked. It doesn't work. We watched it for 9 years, not work.
Right. And one thing I want to say too, that's not directly related to any of the players or anything from this game, but last night's game 7, referee Chris Rooney takes a pretty nasty stick blade off a high stick to the head. Obviously unintentional, but it was the stick of Nico Mikkola. Busted him wide open, was bleeding pretty profusely, and people were worried that it had hit his actual eye and lacerated it. But they did announce on the show, or on the game, if you didn't see it, that he received stitches and everything was above the eye and that he will be okay. So our thoughts for a speedy recovery for Chris Rooney, obviously.
Yeah, it's scary to see. Ryan Whitney mentioned on Spit and Chiglets. Ryan Whitney and Chris Rooney live right by each other in Boston, so kind of a cool little tidbit there. But Ryan said that Chris Rooney's eye is essentially like swollen shut.
Yeah.
So it
was nasty.
He's got a pretty good gooser on there right now, but it seems like he'll be good, and the hope is that he's back to officiate some games later on in these playoffs. So I'm glad he's okay, but that was definitely a scary one to watch, and you're watching the live feed, and you can see the blood pooling up under his face when he's down on all fours in the corner. So glad he's going to be okay, but that was definitely scary. I also want to take a moment to talk about Game 7. Again, I only watched till the end of the second period because it seemed like a foregone conclusion after that. I'm like, well, I'm going to watch some Sopranos because that's what my wife and I are watching right now. It's what we're streaming.
One of the greatest shows of all time.
Yeah, we've enjoyed it. Ironically, our first time watching, and I feel ashamed as an Italian never having watched it. But yeah, it's been really good. But that aside, the first 2 periods, they just looked dead. Look, they didn't do shit to start the game. The first 10 minutes, they were just getting blown away. I couldn't believe Vol kept that game scoreless for them. But then to finish the period, once they started getting chances, they kind of evened the seesaw a little bit. Like they come back, Nylander gets razor thin, close to scoring a goal. I mean, Bob with a big save in tight on him, and that was the difference right away in the period. I mean, as good as Woll was to keep the the Panthers off the board. Bob had made some really impressive saves. Nylander had a couple good looks in the first period, and I thought he was going to be buzzing all night, and then he wasn't. But that first period was back and forth enough once the Leafs got going where I'm like, okay, this could go anyway. And then the second started and the Jones goal. And then who scored the second goal again? What was that?
For the Panthers?
Yeah.
Anton Lundell.
Yeah, and Lundell gets that one, which, oh boy, who the hell left him wide open like that? And then the Gadjevich goal, it stockpiled on him so fast there was just no coming back. And I'm like, I looked at my wife. I'm like, if they can get one before the end of the period, I said they'll have a chance. But if not, we're just going to turn this off because they're going to roll over and die. And so they made it to the end of the second, no goals scored. And that's when I texted you in our group chat. And I'm like, they're going to roll over and die in the third. I'm not even bothering watching this because I know it's coming. It's the Leafs. I mean, it's what we've grown accustomed to with this group. Their last 5 game 7s they've played, they've scored 1 goal in each one of them. And that's a pretty damning indictment of exactly what this team is. It's a high talented group that just has no stones in the playoffs. And we're going to reach the point now where it's time to go. And it's time for them all to go and start new. And, you know, if I'm the GM, I'm a big overreactor, but if I'm the GM, you ship out Nylander, see what you can get for him. You look and see if there's somebody for Matthews. I don't care how good he is in the regular season. He's a bum in the playoffs, and I know he was hurt. And he's a very good hockey player, but this is a guy who cannot be the number one guy. He has proven year over year that he cannot be the number one guy when it's the playoffs. He just can't.
He should not be wearing the C. I'm sorry. He's a great hockey player, but he's a sorry excuse for a captain. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's not. And Marner going ape shit on it. Look, I like Mitch Marner as a player. I actually think he will. I think him and Nylander too. I think they'll flourish in environments that aren't the Leafs. Obviously Nylander's still under contract. It seems like he will stay, but I think Marner's going to flourish in another environment. But him saying guys need to wake the fuck up, you know, in the first period, or what was it, the first or second period?
Yeah, it was second period.
And he doesn't have one drop of sweat on his head. His effort, I thought, was piss poor. He was almost invisible in the game. I think he had more chances where the puck flew off his stick than he did as far as generating anything offensively. So I think he will succeed elsewhere. But this market, it's just not the match made in heaven that they wanted it to be. I don't think Tavares is worth more than about $3 million. So unless they can get him for that, there's no reason to keep him. It's just I think as collectively as hockey fans, we've had it with this crap with the Leafs, and we're tired of hearing about it. And I just can't wait for this group to be gone so we can move on with our lives and stop hearing about them.
And here's the one thing I'll say in conclusion to this whole Leafs thing, and then we can move on to our third round previews. I just want to take a moment now. Since last night, I think the majority, the intelligent human beings that are Leafs fans, the intelligent ones, have realized, wow, this team is just a disaster, and have pretty much kept quiet since realizing that this team is nothing but a letdown. But I've still seen it in the comment sections, a lot of these delusional fans. So I'm just going to address this shit right now so I can say it and then not have to say it again because I'm done after this.
Oh yeah, I forgot it was refs versus Leafs this series.
Oh, I got a couple of things I'm going to say. Number one, the officiating is horrendous across the entire NHL. There have been missed calls on both sides the entire series. Second of all, Sam Bennett is not the reason that Anthony Stolarz was out. It was a puck to the face that caused his injury. Sam Bennett is good friends with Anthony Stolarz. It would not go out of his way to hurt his friend. I know he is a dirty player, but he's not going to go out of his way to hurt his friend, a guy that he won a cup with last year for that matter. Which ties perfectly into my final point. Anthony Stolarz being out is not the reason that you lost this series, okay? Anthony Stolarz is a goalie. Therefore, he's not scoring goals for you. I don't care who is in net for Toronto. Your offense didn't produce. At the end of the day, that's what matters. You couldn't stop the Panthers' offense. Your defense looked pathetic, and your offense, your core forward, didn't show up for you. This had nothing to do with officiating. It has nothing to do with Anthony Stolarz being hurt, and I don't want to hear the Stolarz excuse because all season Leafs fans were saying we have the best goaltending tandem in the league this year. So that means Joseph Woll should have stood on his head every game. And I'll tell you what, the games he did stand on his head and he gave Toronto a chance to stay in it, they couldn't do it. So I don't want to hear the shitty goaltending excuse. The Leafs are chokers. They have been for the last decade, and that's what they are now. That's what happened. It's over. Blow the whole thing up. Start fresh. See what you can do. This ain't it, Chief. I'm done.
For what it's worth, at one you mentioned the offense was the reason they didn't get going, and to further prove that point, when the Panthers went up 3-0, I think the shots on goal at that point were like 25-10. Like there was just never any chance for them to get into
Correct.
this game. They every time they got the puck, it exploded off their stick, and the few times it stayed on their stick. Credit to the Panthers, the defense was really tight checking. They locked that blue line the hell down. The Leafs couldn't get anything going, and that's full credit to them. That's how they play, and we'll get to that more in a second when we talk about their series versus the Hurricanes. But they just shut it down. I mean, the Leafs were never in this. It's not the goalie's fault. It's not the ref's fault. It is, and I know Wool probably wants the Seth Jones goal back. That's one where I think any goalie wants that back, especially against a defenseman. But the Lundell goal, he's left wide open, and the Gadjevich goal, it's just the lack of give a shit to get the puck out of danger by the Leafs is just pathetic. And it just watching the highlights the rest of the game, it just kept building up on him, and it was just insurmountable. So yeah, I think you hit it right on the head, saying that blaming anybody but the anemic offense is silly. It is, and you're absolutely right.
Is a very friendly way.
Yeah, that's very generous. Yeah, I mean, they were just non-existent, quite frankly. It just wasn't good enough. And they get a sign of life in the third. Domi scores really early in the period, like less than 2 minutes in, and you're like,
and it was a great goal too.
Yeah, and I saw it, and I saw you texted that he scored, and it's 3-1. I'm like, really? So I pick up my phone and I go to check the score to see who was all in on the goal. I knew it was Domi, but I'm like, all right, who set it up? With what line was going that got this? And I didn't. What's funny is this all happened so quick. I didn't even actually check to see who assisted on his goal. But as I opened my phone to look at the app, the Panthers had already scored to tie it up. I'm like, or not tie it up. Sorry, to take the 3-goal lead back. And I'm like, yeah, this ain't even worth it. I just locked my phone and kept watching TV. So
I remember when Domi scored. I was like, fuck. Now it's 3-1, and then I was like, now we got a game, and then like 40 seconds later, I was like, never mind.
Yeah, no, it was back to business as usual. But boy, for those 40 seconds, that building was rocking, huh?
I sure was.
Anyways, so we'll leave that as it is. I'm sure we will talk about the Leafs this offseason as they blow up their franchise, which has been a long time coming. And I think everybody's ready to, again, tap dance on their graves. Just blow the whole thing up, ship out everybody but Matthew Nyes and well, Chris Tanev actually was great for them. Chris Tanev and Jake McCabe, I will say, for all the issues the team had defending, actually were very good additions for them. I know McCabe isn't new there, but him and Tanev as a pair was new, and I thought all season they were actually very effective. So I did like that. I thought Benoit actually looked good for what the role he played, but guys like Morgan Riley and the core for all those guys got to go. I just think you can't leave any remnants behind of the loser mentality. Just toss it all in the garbage because it does not work.
Yeah, I think you got to keep Chris Tanev around. I really liked him in Toronto this year.
Yeah, no, and he's got a contract for a couple of years, so he'll stay. But outside of that, there's not much to. There's almost no solace to take away from this. Now let's talk about the conference final. And again, similar to how we did these, let's start with the West first. This should be really high octane hockey. This is a team that is this is two teams that are seemingly scoring at will. You have some of the best playoff performers on earth in this series. You have Brandon, who is having like a historical run here. You have McDavid and Draisaitl, who just cannot be stopped ever, but both teams are getting offensive contributions up and down the lineup and are still capable of finding another gear. You think of the Oilers and you think of like Zach Hyman. That's a guy that if they can get him going, they're even more dangerous. You look at the Stars. I mentioned Jason Robertson. If they can get him going, this is two teams that can eat you up offensively and have the personnel to hold the fort. The big difference in this one is the goaltending. Jake Ottinger, unreal goalie. Stuart Skinner, unreal right now. And I think that'll be a huge factor in how this goes. I think both of these teams won't have issues scoring per se, as good as Ottinger is. But we talk about timeliness of saves, and in my eyes, that seems like it'll be the most important thing here is who can make the saves at the right time. And to me, that's Jake Ottinger.
I'm with you 100%. The one thing the Leafs have going the Oilers have going for them over Dallas is obvious. They have the best player in the world on their team right now.
Best two players in the world.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, I don't want to discredit Draisaitl, but I mean, Connor McDavid, man. Look, hypothetically, if it's a Panthers-Oilers rematch, I said this to you earlier too. The worst thing to come out of it for me as a Panthers fan is that I have to watch McDavid raise a Stanley Cup, which I'm 110% okay with. But back to the Oilers. I think if Stuart Skinner stays hot, it's just going to be which goalie is having the better night for each game. I truly think this is going to be a goaltending battle because they both have stellar offenses. They're both fast teams. I would very easily argue that Edmonton is faster.
I would give the speed edge to the Oilers as well.
Yeah. So dude, this series, it really could go either way. I'm going to say this. I want it to be the Stars. I know you don't. I want it to be the Stars because I would love the Panthers and the Stars to play each other in the final and have it be Pete DeBoer and Paul Maurice, who are great friends from growing up. I think that would be cool. However, I would also love to see an Oilers-Panthers rematch, and I'm going to actually go ahead and give the edge. Despite how great of a goaltender Jake Ottinger is, I think I'm going to give the edge to Edmonton in this one.
I like it. And now, before I give my actual prediction here, I do want to advocate for both teams because they are both very clearly capable of winning here. And so from the Stars' perspective, I think it's just a matter of, again, their offense. It just comes at you in waves, and with Rantanen being as unstoppable as he is, and they're still waiting to see if Robertson can get going now, and Wyatt Johnston is so good, and Roope Hintz is so good. They just have all these weapons, and going into the season, I said the biggest issue I think Dallas will have is dealing with life in the playoffs without Joe Pavelski because he is about as clutch as they come. And what do is all they do is go out and get one of the most prolific playoff scorers of this generation. And so they've more than rectified that. Now Heiskanen's healthy too. I'm not crazy about their decor, but it has seemed to be sufficient enough. If the Stars are going to win this series, I think it's going to be everything I just said. They can completely shut you down. They have one of the best goalies in the world, and now they have that offense that has that next level, all-time great elite scoring. If the Stars win the series, it's just going to be because they pulverize the Oilers early in games, and then Jake Ottinger just shuts the door and is able to kind of play in cruise control. From the Oilers side of things, it's somewhat similar in that they're going to attack you in waves. Their depth contributes so much to their scoring. Their depth scoring seems to be very timely as well, which is huge in the playoffs. It goes without saying that McDavid and Draisaitl are going to be driving forces and that they're going to probably score at will. But for the Oilers, the thing that's going to help them get over the hump and win the series would be if Stuart Skinner stays on his A game, because if he can stay and play like he did the last couple of games against Vegas, all he has to do is be good enough, and his offense, I think, will carry him the rest of the way. And if Ekholm is able to come back as early as game 3, that gives them a huge boost too for a defensive core that, while not great on paper, is finding what works for them. And so for the Oilers, I think I do feel like it's an uphill battle for them, but they're more than capable of doing this. And I do say all of that, though, to say that I do believe Dallas will win this series. I think as good as the Oilers have been and as quickly as they dispatched Vegas, and I know Dallas has just gone through 2 hellacious series. Those were brutal series they were in against the Jets and the Avalanche specifically. Those were absolute battles, but this team has been battle tested before, and I know they haven't won a Stanley Cup as this group yet, but with Rantanen now, it's really hard for me to see them losing. And as good as the Oilers have been and surprised everybody, and everybody continues to doubt them, and I don't want to be that guy because Connor McDavid is my favorite player that's not in a Minnesota Wild jersey, but I just can't see them beating the Stars. And I know I said that against LA and I said it against Vegas, and they absolutely clowned both of those teams. But man, I just can't see it against the Stars, and I just can't. They are just so good right now. And not only are they good on paper, but we talk about you need to be good at the right time of the year. You need to get hot when the time's right, and the Stars are just buzzing. And I cannot see the Oilers winning this series. I can see them winning this series. I don't think they will.
You look, man, and I'm just making the prediction to just make the prediction saying the Oilers are going to win it, man. Look, this series truly, truly can go either way. I will say, this is the one series that I would actually take. I'm not a gambling person, but if I was, I would bet on this series to go 7 games. And it's gonna be a hard fought series, regardless of who comes out on top. And I'm willing to bet you whoever comes out on top is gonna be pretty banged up.
I will
say not injuries, they're gonna be exhausted.
So final call for you. Winner of the series, number of games. It sounds like it's Oilers in 7 for you.
I'm gonna say Oilers in 7.
All right, well, I'm going to be contrarian. I'm going to say Dallas in 7. I do agree with you. This has all the makings of a 7-game series. It does. It feels like this one, just everything has fallen into place for these teams to go the distance and just beat the crap out of each other. I will counterpoint and say you mentioned that whoever comes out of this is going to be pretty banged up. My true belief is that whoever wins this series will also win the Stanley Cup. And and depending on how injuries go, because injuries can make a huge change if there's any devastating ones. But I am going to state my claim right now that I don't believe that either of these teams will lose in the Stanley Cup final. And as good as the Panthers and Hurricanes are, I think these teams are teams of destiny, and somebody has to lose, which is the only reason one of them will. Whoever wins this, I just think it'll be on too much of a heater to lose in the final.
I was going to say the exact same thing verbatim. And I've been saying since the start of the playoffs, I don't think the Panthers are going to win back-to-back cups. Granted, they do have a legitimate shot at it right now. But I agree with you. I think it's going to whoever comes out of the West this year. And that's just the way it is. And there's nothing wrong with that because these are two phenomenal hockey teams. And I think no matter, I can guarantee you two things. Number one, this is probably going to be the best series of the playoffs, I would argue, unless it's, minus the Stanley Cup final. But this is going to be the best series by far. With that being said, though, I do agree. Whoever wins in the West is probably winning the cup, and that's just the way it is. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, I think it's going to be the Oilers. I hope it's the Stars, just because then I know if the Panthers come out victorious, then you'll become the world's largest Florida Panthers fan.
It's weird that we're so similar but so different, because I'm the same thought process as you. I want it to be the Oilers, but I think it's going to be the Stars. I'm a sucker for a storyline, so as cool as it would be with DeBoer going up against Paul Maurice and in the final, that would be a hell of a coaching battle. I want the best player in this league and arguably the most skilled player in the history of this league to win his first Stanley Cup. And so I want it to be the Oilers, but everything looks like it is. Everything looks like it has finally fallen in place for the Dallas Stars. They've been missing this or just this little adjustment or one bounce this way the last several years. It finally feels like it's all there for them. I know I still beat up on the defense core, but the reality is that they're winning. They're winning games, and now they're healthy. I just can't see them losing. I just can't see them losing this now with how far they've come with Rantanen. Everyone's on a heater. I don't see them losing this.
Well, and I also just want to take a quick minute to say to our friend of the show, Don, is a Stars fan as well. I know he's going to be listening to this episode. So Don, once you get through this episode, shoot us a message. Even if you just want to message me on social media, whatever, shoot us a message. I'm very interested to hear your take on how this is going to go. I just love to hear your opinion on it. So shoot us a message some way, somehow after you hear this. Let me know what you think.
All right. Well, we know what we're thinking in the West. Let's move over to the East. So we will have a rematch of the 2023 Eastern Conference Final. The Carolina Hurricanes will play host to the Florida Panthers. The Panthers coming into this, they look really, other than Kachuk, they look like they're a pretty well-oiled machine themselves. There was a couple moments in the Leaf series where I'm like, man, they really got to have a bigger killer instinct, but they stepped up when it mattered. Bob stepped up when it mattered. This looks like a team that's ready to go back to the Stanley Cup final. They just look really dialed in. Similar to how Tarasenko isn't the best guy available at the deadline, but last year for them, he was the perfect addition. Much the same way Marchand this year, not the best player available. Obviously, Rantanen was not the best player available, but the style of play he is, where he slots in the lineup. This is like the perfect addition for the Panthers this year. That third line is incredibly skilled. They were already good with Luosterainen and Lundell, and Marchand is just slotted perfectly in there. He doesn't need to be the number one guy now. This is just looking really good for the Panthers. How are you feeling?
I feel great about it. And I think a big part of it for Marshawn is that he's not a first line guy anymore. He's not the captain anymore. There's been a lot of weight that's been lifted off his shoulders since coming to the Panthers. All he has to focus on now is just fucking play hockey. And that's it. And he thrives when his mind is like that. All he's got to do is just focus on doing his job, and that is it. He doesn't have the weight of a team to carry on his shoulders now. He doesn't have to be the number one guy, and he's just slotted in so great as a depth guy right now. It could not have been a more perfect pickup for the Panthers, and I just love it. And honestly, he's loving life right now on the Panthers, so I'm enjoying the ride because let's be honest, this isn't going to be a permanent addition for the Panthers, so enjoy it while we have it. It'll be cool to see because you don't know where he's going to end up next year, but I can tell you it won't be Florida. But it's been great. I think as a whole, Seth Jones was also a phenomenal pickup too. I really have to give credit there too, because I saw so many people when that trade was made. Why would you trade for Seth Jones? I knew he was going to slot in just fine, especially on the power play. Like he is a good defenseman, and I mean it's hard for him to look good when he was playing on a team as horrible as Chicago was.
Not only was he on the Blackhawks, but because he was on their top pairing, he was playing all the big minutes on a team that was that bad. It was just
correct.
He was doing, and I don't want to sound hypocritical because we absolutely shit all over Connor Bedard this year, and he's kind of in a similar situation where he's playing all the big minutes on a team that is so unbelievably bad. But that's a different discussion. To further your point, Jones has come over. There were a little bit of growing pains at first. It didn't look like it was the greatest addition, but he's really ramped up his game. He's starting to look like the Seth Jones that we saw when he played on the Predators, Blue Jackets.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and I liked him when he was on Columbus, so I knew he had the capability this whole time, and that just goes to show you how much a change of environment or change of scenery can have, how much of an effect that can have on a player. So overall, I'm really happy with the way things are going, and we're going to get into a little bit of detail, obviously, but obviously I'm picking the Panthers to win this series anyway. But
yeah, so let's look at it from the Carolina side of things now. Now, obviously, I say it every time I mention the Hurricanes, but I just am not a believer in their system. But I want to advocate again for all four of these teams because they've all made it this far. It wasn't by accident. All four of these teams are very good hockey teams. So from Carolina's side of things, what's gone right for them? Well, we mentioned it before. They're the best shutdown defense in the league, bar none. They absolutely will. They swallow up every team they play, and they get them sucked into their style of dump it. They force every team to pretty much chip and chase because you really can't get around them at the blue line. They lock it down very well. It's much akin to the 90s Devils, where the Devils played that god-awful 1-4 trap in the 90s, and that's how they won all those Stanley Cups. But the Canes kind of do a similar fashion where they just don't give you room anywhere. All their defensemen buy into the system they play there, and when Freddie Anderson's healthy and he's going, it seems like it's just something you can't stop. The big thing that they're always picked on for is their inability to score. And what we see in this playoffs is that Andrei Svechnikov obviously has stepped up when he's needed to now. Obviously, he scores the series winner against the Caps. But they get Stankoven in the trade with Dallas, which, I'm sure if you ask anybody, they would probably have hoped that the Rantanen trade would have just worked out for them to begin with, and he could have stayed there and been a factor. But Stankoven's come over and been good. Taylor Hall's been good. I think Roslovic's been very good. I think Seth Jarvis is an outstanding hockey player. He has really flourished. I thought he was going to be like a third line depth guy his whole career, just like a kind of a checking line guy. But boy, has he really brought an element to his game. Jackson Blake, I think they would like to see a little more out of. It seemed like his regular season has gone much better than his playoffs, but they're still not the big scoring threat that you need to be in the playoffs. Like you look at a Dallas and an Edmonton and even the Panthers too. They don't have that, but after the way they played Washington, you almost wondered, do they need it? And we're going to find out. We're going to find out very soon if that's what they need. But they defend better than anybody in the league, and they have a goalie right now who is, cross your fingers that he stays healthy. but when he's on and the defense is on, it's just hard to get anything against them. So the only way the Hurricanes win the series in my eyes is if they stick to their brand of hockey and they just don't give the Panthers a fucking inch. Because if they try and go into a run and gun or a super heavy forechecking kind of game, I think they're going to get the break speed off them by the Panthers. So I think if they stick to their, and I hate to say it, but if they stick to their boring style of shutdown trap defense hockey, I think that'll be what is effective for them if they're going to win this series.
Before I go into detail on this, I have to ask you something real quick. And it's not about the meme I just sent you, but there's a GIF I've seen floating around on Instagram when people are. I know you sent me. Yeah, that's my wife sent me that. So, but it's missing the Bruins from 2018 too, if you notice.
Sorry, the Leafs have lost so many times in round one, it's hard to keep track.
It is. There's a GIF floating around. I've seen it on Instagram and comment sections where people are trash talking the Carolina Hurricanes, and Canes are posting this GIF. I don't know who the Canes player is. I can't think of his name, but he's sitting there.
Is it Sebastian Aho with the mouth guard in his mouth going?
Yes.
Yeah. For people who don't know what Andrew's talking about, the people who may know, it's the Tampa Bay versus Carolina game earlier this season where Brandon Hagel's barking at the Canes bench, and the camera pans to Sebastian Aho, whose mouth guard is hanging halfway out of his mouth, and he's mocking Hagel. And the camera pans back to Hagel, and he just starts laughing. All you have to do in any GIF search is just look for type in Sebastian Aho GIF, and that's the first thing that pops up. It's hilarious.
Dude, every time I see it, I'm fighting back tears right now. It sends me into a laughing fit, man.
I wish I knew that ahead of time. I would have been sending you that a lot more. Shit.
Oh my god, dude, it kills me every time. But I digress. I was like, who the fuck is that? So every GIF I see is like the most low quality pixelated image ever. So I'm just like, fucking. Anywho, so. You kind of touched on what I wanted to touch on, is that the key to Carolina winning this series is going to be that the defense, and that's what they're going to have to rely heavily on. You know, what I'm about to say, I don't want it to sound like I'm discrediting the Hurricanes making it this far, because they're a good team. Making it to the conference final doesn't happen by accident. But what I do want to say is they've had the easiest path to the conference final of the 4 teams that have made it. So, and again, I don't
think that's not an unfair statement, and it's not. You're right. It's not a criticism.
No, it's absolutely not. I'm not. They're a great team. I'm not discrediting that at all. But they have had it the easiest road to the conference final, and you're gonna have to shut down Florida's offense, or you're not gonna win this game.
Series.
Series. I'm sorry. So. And a lot of it's going to come down to, are the goaltenders going to stay consistent? Because Bob can be just as inconsistent as Anderson can be too. So I don't. Again, this truly is a series. I think could go either way, but in reality, I think the Panthers are going to take this one. I will say I can guarantee you it will not be a sweep. The Hurricanes will get at least one win out of this series. I can promise you that.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I don't see a sweep on either side here. So again, I was waiting for you to see it. I while Andrew was talking, I texted him the GIF of Sebastian Aho.
Sorry.
I wish this episode was going to be on video, because the entire time you were talking, I was smiling as I couldn't wait for you to see it.
Oh man, right. This fucking horrendous laughing audio is going to be on this podcast. I'm sorry, everybody. Dude, I can't look at it anymore.
Yeah, don't. I was giggling just looking at it. I had to mute my mic. Anyways. So I want to reiterate something with the Canes too. I dump on them a lot. I don't want them to lose. I don't have bad wishes against the Canes. The reality is that it's one of the most passionate fan bases in the league. On the ice, the on-ice product, the team is good. They win. I don't like their style of play. It's boring, but they win. And that's what's important. Again, the building is awesome. That place goes fucking nuts every time those guys step on the ice. And I think it would be really cool. I talk about loving storylines. I think it'd be great for Rod Brindamore to captain the Canes to their first cup and then coach them to their second one. I think that would be awesome. I've just for the longest time not had the belief that the team can do it the way they're built. But you know what? Like I said, if they're gonna get it done, they need to stay bought into the defensive scheme that has led them to success all year long. This is, I will say, the best this Canes team has looked. So while I'm not 100% a believer of them yet, and I still need to be convinced. So again, I won't be convinced till they make the final. I can at least say I see a path for them to get to the final now. The problem is what's across from them, and I want to advocate for the Panthers now. We talk about everything good that the Panthers do, and like the Oilers and like the Stars, they can, for the most part, score at will. I would say those top three lines for them roll very well. Obviously, we praise the Marchand and Luostarinen and Lundell line. Just very effective. Lundell's a great center. I think he's a great young center, and his chemistry with Luostarinen was good last year. And you had him Marchand, who's a good playoff performer. He's a rat. He's good at getting the other team's skin. But the top line, the way they score is so surgical with Rodriguez and Barkov and Reinhart. Sam Reinhart is just an unbelievably good hockey player. I don't know how he doesn't get talked about more. I think he's getting more love these days, and I think last year's playoffs helped, and scoring the Stanley Cup winning goal certainly didn't hurt. But the second line too, for Hagee, who is again a proven playoff performer, and I think the Panthers want to look to get a little more out of him. Even he probably would tell you, he'd be the first one to say that he hasn't had the playoffs he'd like, but his line mates Bennett and Kachuk are just the meanest sons of bitches you can play against. They are tough as nails, but they're both still such skilled players that they'll beat the crap out of you. Then they'll get the puck back and they'll take it out front and they'll score. And all three of their top lines can score at will, but they all attack you in different ways, and it makes it so hard to defend against. And so, as good as Carolina is at shutting it down, they're not going to have a one-size-fits-all scheme to defend this team because the way the lines attack is so different. And what I think will help the Panthers is exactly that. I know the Canes won't make it easy for them, but I just have a feeling, and it's something is screaming to me that it's going to be that third line. That one of these lines is going to have the exact formula to get through that iron or that brick wall defense that Carolina puts up, and that third line is just calling to me that it's going to be them. Their defensive pairings have stepped up. I really question the Panthers' ability this season as far as their defensive depth went without Montour and all the minutes he's played, but again, Seth Jones has come in, has been very good for them. Kulikov stepped up. Nate Schmidt has been good for them. Nico Mikkel has been good for them. Gus Forsling has continued to be one of the better defenders in the league. So they replace Montour by committee. Forsling, obviously their number one guy, but everybody else fills in the gaps there. And Ekblad has been huge, playing top pairing minutes for them this season. And Bob has just been awesome. He hasn't been perfect, but the games he's on, wow, has he been really on. They made quick work of the Lightning, and he had a slow start against the Leafs, but the last 5 games of that series, I thought he was great. He gives them a chance to win every night. And so what I think will be the Panthers' formula for success here is to stick with what's worked already. Roll all 4 lines. Paul Maurice is one of the better coaches at rolling all 4 of his lines. And their fourth line is no slouch either. I mean, Gadjevich, Nosek, and Greer, those are all effective guys too. I mean, Gadjevich just scored in Game 7. That's about as clutch as you can get to scoring a Game 7 goal. But Maurice rolls these lines very well. He's very good at splitting up the defensive pairings and making sure that the time isn't too lopsided. But for the Panthers, what's going to work is just attack, because again, they all, you can even say this for the fourth line, they come at you in so many different ways that there's no one size fits all formula. And I think ultimately, not only will that's going to need to be what they do to have success, but I think they will do it. And I think that's going to give them the win in this series. What is your call for this series officially, the team and the games played?
Obviously, I'm going to go with Florida, and I'm going to say 5 games.
All right, I like it.
Maybe 6, but I'm going to say 5 just to be a horse's ass.
I think the big takeaway from that I've had from these playoffs is that Carolina is not the joke I made them out to be going into the playoffs. I still, unfortunately, don't think it's enough, and I'm going to stick with my guns. I'm going to take the Panthers in 6 in this one. I just think their attack is going to be too much for the Canes defense to handle. And I think they're going to find the cracks in the seams against Freddie Anderson and exploit them. And we'll see what happens, but I'm going to take Panthers in 6 for this.
I think we're on the same page here. And, you know, another thing that Florida does exceptionally well, better than most teams in the league, I would argue, is winning puck battles in the corners. They excel at that. They also excel at trapping that puck in the corner and not letting anybody get to it. So that's another one, is you have to be able to win puck battles against this team too. They're just very aggressive on the puck. And this is definitely going to be an uphill battle for Carolina for sure. And I'm not speaking with any bias here. I'm just speaking based off what I've seen, especially having seen these two teams play each other before in this exact scenario.
Yeah.
So,
One thing I also want to say too is, again, the Panthers have so many different ways they can attack you as far as their scoring style, but the primary form to their offense is to chip and chase, and that does work for them. But again, as stout as the Canes are defensively, the Panthers are going to have to be like bloodthirsty hounds on this puck, because when they chip it in, the Canes are already. Freddie Anderson's a pretty active goalie. He likes to go play the puck, and the Canes defense is quick to get pucks out of corners and chip it up the ice. So as good as the Panthers are at rolling their lines and dumping the puck in, they're going to need to be almost glued to it as soon as they flip it over the defense, because if they're not, Carolina's going to vacuum it up and clear it out on them every time, and it's going to make their life hell. So I think as good as the Western Conference series is going to be, I think this one will provide a lot more excitement than what we saw from the Canes and Caps in round 2.
I agree with you 100%. And, you know, back to Florida dumping the puck. I mean, they dump the puck more than anybody in the league, and that's fine when it works. But Carolina's a team that can shut that shit down real fucking quick. So, and if that happens, you have to be able to adapt and overcome that. So if anybody can do it, it's Paul Maurice. He's a great coach. I have to give credit to Bobrovsky, 37 years old. And when that guy's dialed in, he's a brick wall. So I love Bob.
Yeah, he's, you know, for what it's worth, when he signed there for all that money years ago, I mean, I think he had just come off of Vezina season with the Blue Jackets, but even still, people were like, "Man, is this your guy? Like, is this your guy?" Because it seemed like a lot of money for a guy who's good in the regular season but couldn't get it done in the playoffs. Well,
yeah,
he's won a Stanley Cup now. What's that?
He's 36. I say he will be 37 this year. Okay,
he's won a Stanley Cup. He's 4 wins away from reaching another Stanley Cup final. He's already been to 2. If the Panthers can get this done and go to the final, and hell, if they can win it all again, Bob moves from not only being what I think is a Hall of Fame goalie, but he starts to break into that tier of the best goalies of all time. If the Panthers can pull this off and then win the Stanley Cup again, I think Bob moves from legend Hall of Famer to all-time great.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and he has all the makings of that. It's just a matter of they have to get it done. So the possibilities there, but he truly is a terrific goaltender. I'm so overwhelmed as a Panthers fan, you know, as well. My wife and I have been watching this team since they were talking about relocating, because that's how bad they were. To just see them come as far as they have, I can't even describe to you how emotional it was seeing them win the cup last year, and just how much pride I have in being a Panthers fan and what this team has gone through to get where they are to this day. And, you know, so much of it, aside from coaching and the players on the ice, so much of it comes from having a GM who truly cares. And Bill Zito, God bless him, man. He's one of the best GMs in the league at this point. I don't care what anybody says. So, and I'm so happy I was wrong about signing Paul Maurice as the head coach. I was wrong about the Tkachuk Huberdeau trade. I was wrong about all of it, and it paid off in a way I never could have imagined. So I love this team, and even if they don't win a cup this year, I have nothing to be ashamed of as a Panthers fan. And if you're a Panthers fan listening to this, especially if you're a Panthers fan, a real Panthers fan, those of us that were there in the dark days, I have nothing but pride for this team.
As you should. They've really righted the ship. They have come a long way. It's been, watching from a distance, it's been fascinating to see the turnaround they had. So we'll see how they can do in this conference final. I think we're going to have 2 all-time. We're going to have some absolute hockey cinema for these conference finals. Mm-hmm. You know, watching as a fan of a team that's been long out of the playoffs, it's like, God, you hope to one day get there. But just to to see how excited you are for your own team, it's like, this is pretty cool. You hope to see, hopefully for your case, the Panthers can get it done and win it all again. And who knows? I believe they are the favorites in this series on all the sports books. I think outside of that, I think they just should be. I do think they are a better team, but that's why you play. You just never know. You just never know. I mean, look at the Oilers. A lot of people had them gone in round one, and now they're. I think ironically they are favored to win the series against the Stars, which I can see why, but man, the road they've gone. And I think if you predicted this before the playoffs, I don't think anybody was having the Oilers or not a lot of people were having the Oilers in the Final Four. There are a lot of Oilers fans who are like, we're fucking doing it. And you know what? To their credit, they're fucking doing it. So they're letting them know. But it's gone well for them, and it's gone well for the Panthers and even the Canes, who, again, get dogged on a lot, but in their offense still needs to find that next gear. But they're sticking to their brand, and it's working for them. And the Stars, it's working for them. All four of these teams. You could tell me, you could step into my living room from a time machine and say, hey, this team just won the Stanley Cup, and it could be any of these four teams, and I'd be like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
I think it was the Hurricanes. I'd be like, oh shit, okay, I gotta eat some crow. But
yeah,
all four of these teams, the skills there, nobody's here by accident, and this next month of hockey is, I think, is going to be a treat to everybody. And if your team's in it, I'm excited for you. If your team's not in it, I'm also excited for you, because you can watch this stress free and watch these teams just absolutely go to war.
Yeah, the stress level's definitely there. Let me tell you,
I don't feel a thing.
Real quick too, before we go, I just want to let everybody know that's listening. And Brian, I've contacted the appropriate people, so it's safe to say this. We don't know if we're going to have a show for the upcoming week. More than likely not. Brian and I are going to Wisconsin for Memorial Day weekend.
Mine is not so much a leisure trip as yours.
Yes, no, Brian. Unfortunately, Brian, one of his friends passed away. So he's going for a funeral. I'm just going to go golfing with my buddies.
The timing was perfect of how everything's going down, because I can just hitch a ride with you, which is good.
Yeah,
I don't want to fucking drive, especially because my wife and I are going there in a couple weeks again.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It'll be nice to be there and see some people I haven't seen in a long time, but I wish it was for a better reason.
Yeah, I feel you. But us recording a show for next week is largely going to depend on when we get back on Monday. So just fair warning, if there is no show next week, at least you guys know what happened now, and we're not leaving you in the dark. I
would say to be safe, first of all, there won't be one Sunday because we won't be back yet.
Correct.
So there won't be one Sunday. There's an outside chance that there will be one Monday, but depending on timing, the Panthers also play next Monday, I believe. So
yes,
timing will be crucial there. I would say plan for a show next Tuesday. First of all, it'll give us time to get through, I think, up to Game 3 on both series. So that'll give us a healthy enough. And then our next show after that will be whenever the conference final ends. So I don't know how many days that'll be, but we'll do a show next Tuesday, and then we'll do one after the conference final ends, in which will allow us to set up the Stanley Cup final.
And we're looking forward to it. And hey, if you have some input on what we talked about on this show today, even if you're not interested in us reading on the show, if you just want to throw some input at us, we'd love to hear it. Send us an email, freshicehockeypodcast@gmail.com, or contact@freshicehockeypodcast.com. If you don't want us to read it on the show, we'll be happy to reply to you and give you our feedback on your feedback. That's what we're here for. So if you want to throw some input our way, send us a message, shoot us an email. You can follow us on social media. Facebook and Instagram is at Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast, and TikTok is at Fresh Ice Pod. Brian, you got anything you want to say?
No, man, I think we covered all the bases. Like I said before, I'm very excited for what these next couple of weeks, this next month of hockey, but specifically with these two series, I can't wait to see what the next few weeks bring us.
I'm right there with you, man. It's going to be fun. Everybody enjoy the conference final. I hope you all have a great week. We love you guys all to death. Go Panthers.